Purnima, if you could also tell us, now that we see these protesters have stormed inside, they're swarming, there are thousands of them from what we are learning from your own ground reports. What news of Ranil Wickremesinghe? We just heard that statement coming from him. Does that indicate he's still in Colombo? Is he still in some other part of Sri Lanka? If not Colombo, what are you learning in terms of his whereabouts?
Well, Ranil Wickremesinghe is very much in the country, but in terms of whether he's in Colombo or the neighbouring district, that we are not sure. But because his private house was set on fire, his private residence was set on fire, and when that was set on fire, it was only his wife who was inside. And after that, Ranil Wickremesinghe also issued an emotional speech saying that his only house in Sri Lanka has been damaged, 2,500 odd books were also destroyed. That was the only emotional video that was released by the media team. So he is very much in the country and is trying to work out on a solution to ensure that he still remains in power, because many sources say that he wanted to be the president, and he was desperate that he becomes the president. Therefore, he's very much here and he's not gone into hiding. Even now, he had in fact addressed the media through his media team. We'll have to wait and see what exactly he plans to do. But at the moment, Ranil Wickremesinghe is not planning to leave the country. He wants to ensure that he acts as the interim president and tries to resolve the crisis. However, that is not going down well with the protesters. They don't want Ranil to be the acting president, which is why today Prime Minister's office was in fact surrounded by these protesters in the morning, and they stormed the PMO office, sending out a message that it's time for Ranil also to step down. Till then, this also will now be a place that's open for the public, and they will continue to stay here as well. That's a word coming in from protesters.
Purnima, it's interesting that you mentioned this disdain that these protesters have towards Ranil Wickremesinghe. Having said that, I'm going to request you to take us through what's happened in the past few days, because it was just some days ago that Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed as the Prime Minister only by the Rajapaksas to actually pull the country out of the economic meltdown that it was witnessing. Having said that, what is now perceived by the protesters is the fact that it is Wickremesinghe is the man Friday to the Rajapaksas, that he's viewed as a friend to the Rajapaksas. And this is somebody we are looking at who's not just being criticized by the public, but also by the opposition parties.
Absolutely. If you look at the day when Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the Prime Minister, one of the first statements that he came out with is that the protesters can continue to protest and that there won't be action taken against protesters. That was to try and offer an olive branch to the protesters to ensure that he be given time to tackle the ongoing unprecedented crisis. But that did not work, because protesters felt that he is someone who is working under the instructions of the Rajapaksas, and therefore they thought that even Ranil should step down as the Prime Minister. On Saturday, we saw dramatic scenes unfold at the Golf Phase, where protesters stormed the presidential palace, the temple trees, and also the presidential secretariat. But over the last 3 days, the anger was directed more towards Ranil, because the sources said that Ranil had only offered to resign, saying that after an all-party government is formed, he will step down, knowing that an all-party government formation is a challenge, as the opposition parties here do not have the numbers to work in their favour. Therefore, thought that Ranil Wickremesinghe will not resign, and that they should somehow put pressure on the Prime Minister to resign. And therefore today gathered outside the Prime Minister's office, sending out a message that it's time for Ranil also to step down and not act as the interim president till the Parliament elects a permanent president.
Right. It's interesting that you ended that statement by saying that till the Parliament elects an interim president. When can we expect that? Is July 20th the date when we can expect a change, or will Ranil Wickremesinghe continue as Gotabaya Rajapaksa's successor?
Well, as per the procedure, July 15th is when the Parliament will continue, and then there on the nominations for President's post. After the list of nominees on the 20th, they will
parties want to contest for the post of president, they should get the support. Whether they will get the support, whether a few parliamentarians from the ruling party will support the opposition parties, that remains to be seen. But at the moment, not major support coming in for the opposition parties. So we'll have to wait and see whether it is going to be yet another person who could be Rajapaksa's supporter, who could continue being the president, or whether the opposition parties can manage to get the numbers. Over the next few days, more drama is expected to unfold to see if the opposition parties will get the support or whether it's going to be a Rajapaksa man who will continue to be in the top post.
Absolutely. The next few days are going to be very interesting, Purnima, because there's already reports now surfacing of how impeachment is also one possibility that perhaps the Rajapaksa, that President Rajapaksa could be staring at. Is that going to be one possibility? Sajith Premadasa, could he play a crucial role over here as far as his impeachment is concerned? Could he challenge Ranil Wickremesinghe's post as the interim president at the moment?
Well, Sajith Premadasa and Dalus, these are the two names that have cropped up in the last 2 days. Sajith Premadasa has also to media said that he wishes to contest for the post of president, and he's also confident that his party could form an inter-party government. But so far, they have not managed to garner more support. In the coming days, we'll have to see, once the parliament convenes, and how the discussions pan out, whether some distant MPs from the ruling party will pledge support for the opposition parties, or whether they will choose the man chosen by Rajapaksa, or whether they will choose the loyalist of Rajapaksa. That remains to be seen, which is why you see that the protests continue, and they refuse to call off the protest because they think that it's all a conspiracy, and eventually the person who may become the president will again be a Rajapaksa man, and that is something they don't want, which is why you can see protests continuing to snowball outside the Prime Minister's office, saying that Ranil should also step down, and that the Parliament should decide who could well be the next president. That's the word that's coming in from these protesters